Hi guys, I'm EVM and welcome back. Now I'm going to do something which I don't normally do, and that's respond to something that's happened very recently. The announcement by Ionity that they're going to charge 69 pence per kilowatt hour has created a bit of a storm in the EV online community. Even some YouTube channels are like fully charged, for example. It's very rare I disagree with what is said in a fully charged video, but in this case I do. A lot of people are kicking off because 69 pence is extortionate and too expensive and it's going to put people off. But I think people are making the classic mistake here of reading the headline and not looking at the article. It's kind of like the Daily Mail. For me, Ionity charging 69 pence for pay-as-you-go people actually makes a lot of sense when you look into it. You have to excuse my sexier than normal, gravelier voice, but I have recently just managed to pull through a bout of man flu. Now, according to my YouTube analytics, 97% of people who watch this channel are male, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I almost didn't make it. I'd like to thank everyone on YouTube, especially the person that started a Just Giving page to try and raise £2 to make me feel better. That got me through the whole thing. Now, before I get to the Ionity pricing and why I think it's not as bad as a lot of people do, I just want to clarify something first, which always annoys me when it comes to people comparing fueling petrol cars with electric cars. You see, it's like comparing apples and pears. It's different. They aren't the same just because they're cars. It's something you can only really appreciate or see the difference with once you actually own one. Let me explain. So a petrol car, you go and buy fuel. So you pay for fuel, you pay for a product, and the delivery method is the same. So no different levels of service, you're just buying a product, pretty much. With an EV, you're buying a product, electricity, fuel, but there are different levels of service, and that affects the price because you're paying for the fuel, but you're also paying for the delivery of that fuel. The faster the delivery, the more expensive the price of the fuel will be. Something you don't have to worry about with petrol or diesel because, of course, there is only one speed of filling up. A rapid charger costs about 20 times more than a fast charger, so of course it's going to be more expensive to use that to fuel your EV. You're getting electricity at a faster rate, you're getting a better service, and therefore it costs more. I don't think anybody could argue with the economics of that. The best analogy I can think of is think of it like the internet. You've got one person with 100 meg broadband and someone with a 200 meg broadband. They're both getting the same thing, data, the internet, but this guy's getting it twice as fast. Well, that's because he's paying probably a lot more for it than the guy on 100 meg. He's paying more, he gets the same thing at a faster rate. That's the better way of looking at EV charging. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because it's something that always comes up in the comments. Well, this doesn't happen with my petrol car, or I don't have to do this in my petrol car. It's kind of like, imagine you've had an iPhone for years and then somebody gives you an Android phone. They do the same thing in very much the same way, but I guarantee you'd be like, well, where's the settings bit? How do I don't, where is it? I can make calls and do what I want to do basically, but I don't know where anything is. That's kind of what it's like changing from a petrol to an electric car. It's the same, but it's different. So before I went onto Ionity, I just wanted to kind of clarify that. There's a reason why rapid charging is more expensive than fast charging, or home charging especially. You're not just paying for the fuel, you're paying for the way it gets to you. If you want cheaper fuel, use a slower charger, but people put time as a premium and are happy to pay more for that. Right, now onto the Ionity 69p thing. This is something, I'm not saying I agree with it, I'm not saying it's an acceptable price, 69, but a lot of people out there will actually be paying 69 pence, and this is my point. I need to keep my throat lubricated. Right, well I might as well start with what Ionity actually is, because it's not just a normal charging network, it's kind of a joint venture, an alliance of car manufacturers that have basically come together and said, well, let's create our own charging network. I guess kind of to rival Tesla's supercharging network, which is ultimately for Tesla customers. The Ionity network is ultimately for Ionity group customers. So for example, Mercedes, they're the only ones to have actually announced this, but I imagine the others will follow in the not too distant future. If you have, the only Mercedes full electric car, the EQC, they have something called Mercedes Me Charge. So through that system, you can access Ionity, and it says it right here, for 29 cents per kilowatt hour. That's euros. So let's call it 29 pence per kilowatt hour. So you can see what's happening here. If it's an Ionity group manufacturer or member, then you're going to be getting it at about 29 pence per kilowatt hour. Ford are another member, for example. The Mustang Mach-E, when I went to that whole thing, they very specifically said that the car will do it all for you. You just plug in and all the billing, like Mercedes Me, I guess, the Ford equivalent, that will all be done. And although they didn't say it specifically, I can't imagine any of the members not getting this sort of cheaper preferential treatment or rate. Very much like Tesla's supercharger network is for Tesla owners, the Ionity network is for Ionity owners. And they're going to get it not at the advertised headline 69 pence per kilowatt hour, they're going to be getting it at probably 29 pence per kilowatt hour. That's about the going rate. I mean, let's have a look. Ecotricity currently charge, I think it's 39 pence per kilowatt hour, or if you're an Ecotricity utility customer, they charge, I think it's 19 pence per kilowatt hour. So by joining their utility company, gas and electric, for your house, you get cheaper charging. That's a benefit of being a customer of theirs. If you're a Polar member, for example, you can subscribe, so therefore become a member of the Polar subscription service. The 50 kilowatt chargers are 15 pence if you're a subscriber, or 30 pence if you're using contactless, so you pay as you go. Or if you use their faster ultra chargers, which is 150 kilowatts, then it's 20p as a member or 40p for pay as you go. So clearly there's a pattern here. If you're a member or a customer of ours, you get a cheaper rate of charge. So I guess Ionity is a combination of the Tesla network, which is closed off, and the normal charging network, which is open to all. Anyone can access the Ionity charging network, but if you're not part of the group, then you're going to have to pay for it. Let's face it, if Tesla suddenly opened the supercharger network up to anyone with CCS in Europe, they would be applauded. Even if they decided to charge 69 pence per kilowatt hour, people will be like, well, I'm not going to use it because it's expensive, but it's always there. It's always a good backup. It's always nice to know it will be there if I ever need it, if I ever get stuck, or if I ever arrive at an Ecotricity charger and it inevitably doesn't work. Would you prefer, tell me this in the comments, would you prefer if Ionity just said, you know what, anyone that's not paid for this network can't access it. It's just for our members only. Just like Tesla have done. Tesla have paid for the network themselves. The customers have bought the car, part of which is the network. You're paying for the network. So Tesla have paid for the network, only Tesla owners get it. Ionity have paid for the network, only Ionity members get it. Would you prefer it that way, or would you prefer this as well? A high fee, yes, but at least you can access it. It's an emergency backup. It's there if you need it. If you want to use Ionity at the cheapest price, then you're going to have to buy one of the group's cars. Just like if you wanted to access the Tesla supercharger network, you'd have to buy one of the Tesla cars. If you wanted to charge Ecotricity's chargers for half price, you'd have to join the utility company. It's no different from what everyone else is doing. Now, what members are actually part of the Ionity group? Because this is something which I think when you see the list, it's probably 2/3 of all cars in Europe anyway. I mean, we have BMW, Mini, Mercedes, Ford, Volkswagen, Skoda, Seat, Porsche, Audi, and recently, so clearly other manufacturers can join this later on, I think it was September of last year actually, Kia and Hyundai have joined the group as strategic partners. So they've seen the benefit of this and thought, we want a bit of that. See, rather than have a go at Ionity for charging 69 pence for people outside of this group, why do you have a go at the manufacturer of your car for not joining this group in the first place? That's what should be happening here. join the Ionity group, just like Kia and Hyundai have, after the fact, and then you'll be able to get it at the cheaper rate. Can you imagine what it'd be like if Tesla opened their network up to other companies, well, any car rather, and did it at the same price as the rest of Tesla owners? Forgetting the fact of who paid for it, what would Tesla owners be like every time they turned up at the Tesla supercharging stalls, only to find loads of Renault Zoes and Kias and all sorts of cars there? They'd be like, well, hang on a minute, I bought a Tesla so I could access this network, and now everyone else is using it who paid nothing to be a part of it. They've not built it, they've not paid into it, and yet they can access it at the same price I can. That's ridiculous. Well, you could say the same with Ionity. If you want to be part of it, join us. If you don't, you're going to have to pay a lot. As an Ionity customer, if I ended up buying an Audi e-tron, yeah, that's likely, then if I turned up at Ionity chargers and found loads of Citroens and Peugeots and Vauxhall, full electric cars charging at the same price I am, I'd be quite annoyed at that, because I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, part of the reason I bought this car, part of what I was told on the advertising bump, was that I had this Ionity network at a good rate. My manufacturers paid for this network and everyone else is getting the benefit from it. Now, yeah, I kind of understand we just want a network for all, but if that's the case, then we need to get rid of the Tesla supercharging network. How can they have their own and not other manufacturers have their own? At least, as I said, at least Ionity have opened it up to everyone. So I suppose, in my mind, if you're going to have a go at them, have a go at Tesla. I mean, if you were on, I don't know, Vodafone, and then all of a sudden loads of O2 users hopped onto your network and paid the same as you'd be like, oh, hang on a minute, I pay line rental. How come they're getting to make calls at the same rate I am, and they're not part of the network? There's a million examples of this all around everywhere. I'm guessing there's no legal requirement for it to be open, otherwise how are Tesla getting away with it? So yeah, for me this is a storm in a teacup. To be honest, I think if you're willing to pay or buy one of their cars, you get a benefit. Take that benefit away, then what's going to happen is that these joint ventures just won't happen again. Can you imagine if they were forced to charge everybody the same price, whether they were part of the group or not? They'd just say, well, there's no point in investing all this money into a charging network, only be told that everyone has to access it anyway. We'll just pull out, and then the charge network will turn into, another charge network that I can't remember the name of, that doesn't have any investment at all. I think it rhymes with stuplicity. I suppose that's a good example there. The electricity network is failing, it's poor, it's old, and even Dale Vince himself in the media has said they don't have the investment to put in to get it up to standard. Well, that's what would happen if Ionity was suddenly forced to charge the same for non-group members as group members. Right, well, this is where you chip in the comments. I'm not saying I'm right on this, but in my opinion, they're doing nothing wrong by disincentivising non-members to not block their charges. I have no problems with that. If I end up with an Ionity group's car at some point in the future, I will probably be glad they've done it, because then the people that haven't paid towards the network aren't blocking the charges. I bought a car, I've effectively helped pay for the network like a Tesla owner, and therefore it should be for me to use as a priority over other people. They can still use it, as I've said, it's a benefit. They could have locked it off, but they didn't. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Am I being harsh? Am I speaking sense for once? Let me know. Just, be polite, and please have the courtesy to at least watch the whole video and listen. The amount of times people say something in a comment and it's like, well, I've answered this in the video already. You've clearly not watched the whole thing. I don't mind if people disagree with what I said, as long as they're not dicks about it, and a lot of people tend to be, if I'm honest, and B, they back it up with some sort of facts. Right, as usual, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel. I say this every time now, because I think it's something like 60-70% of people each month, it changes, aren't subscribed to the channel. That's what sponsors and car manufacturers look at, subscriber numbers, and that's the best way of me getting cars and various other things, by having more subscribers. So please, if you can, help the channel out by doing that. And of course, don't forget about the brilliant high quality merch. We have cups, and some t-shirts. Right, thank you again. I'll see you soon.